Welcome back to Big Bad Bodybuilding. This is our second episode. I'm Zach Barnard, joined as always by my co-host Dennis Wolf from Las Vegas. Dennis, I know you've been feeling a little under the weather. You good to go today?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Hello, Zach. Hello, everyone. Yes, and I would like to welcome Stuart to our show. And yeah,
howdy, guys.
It's our
Absolutely.
second episode, and I'm really glad you joined us. And yeah, we're ready to go.
Yeah, when we started, we promised we were going to get some young talent on here, and obviously, Stuart's, he's coming from Seattle. He just moved up that way, and of course, he was the runner-up this year at the New York Pro. He's currently in his off season, preparing for the 2024 competition season. Stuart, I appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me, guys. I'm happy to be here. I've been doing a lot of these podcasts recently. I was telling you, Zach, like kind of comes and goes, media stuff, especially around the Olympia. So
right.
It's been a lot of jabbering recently.
Absolutely. Well, there's a lot to talk about from last weekend. Before we get into Olympia talk, we want to send out a special note of appreciation to Gasp and Better Bodies for sponsoring the show. And also, as you can see here to the side of me, we are premiering Dennis's new Legacy T-shirt with Gasp. It's the Big Bad Wolf T-shirt. You can see it there in blue and purple. I've got it on myself and Dennis, and we also have the orange colorway here. And those are now available on the Gasp website. So check out the link below. You can click on that to get your Big Bad Wolf T-shirt. Use code BigBadBodybuilding for a 15% discount on that. We appreciate those guys. And Dennis, congratulations on the Legacy shirt.
Thank you very much. It looks extremely awesome. And hope you guys like it too. So get yours.
Absolutely. We're also going to do a free shirt giveaway at the end of the show. So stay tuned and we will let you know how you can win one of those. Speaking of Gasp, Stuart, I know you recently signed with Gasp. Why don't you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been kind of a fan of their stuff for a long time, and I don't know if I figure you guys have probably gone to a lot of their events. There's a couple of folks down in Tucson where I used to live named Raph and Melissa Tyke, and they put me in touch with Branch, and that kind of got the ball rolling there. But yeah, I haven't made it out to Dallas quite yet, but I'm going to be down there in beginning of December for Nationals. I don't know if either of you guys will be there, but yeah, I went to Nationals last year. It's always fun to do the amateur shows, see who's coming.
Maybe
up.
we can get up there and do a show from Nationals. I don't know if we can get Dennis to come back down again, but that's an hour drive. Well, actually, the show's closer than that for me, but definitely like to come meet you up there at Destination Dallas and maybe get a workout in together or something.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna get out there, meet the crew, and I mean, I don't know, like the national shows the last little while have been kind of hit or miss, but every once in a while you get a whole bunch of new talent, bunch of freaks that come out of those shows. And
anybody out your way getting ready for that one?
Out here, I had an acquaintance who was actually, I'd mentioned, it was at that show last weekend, local. He was trying to qualify there, but I don't think he got his qualification. So he's probably not going to be doing it. But,
okay.
There's not a lot of like bodybuilders up my way. I know it's probably way different down in Vegas with Dennis, that's like the new Mecca. But there's a lot of physique guys, a lot of bikini girls, kind of the smaller divisions. But, I'm kind of the only one up here in Washington as far as
stay covered up, man. Show up and shock people, man. Do you have a show in mind that you kind of have targeted for next year? Or you kind of holding off, keeping that under wraps?
No, no reason to hide it. I'm going to be doing New York again.
Okay.
And then just try to do.
What month is that?
It's like the end of May.
Okay.
And then, it's like the first regular season show besides the Arnold.
Okay.
So if I can
unless
just
that
roll
Arnold
through
invite comes in, right? You get that Arnold invite.
Man, I
want
to stay fat through the holidays. So
thanks. That's a great strategy. I like that. Awesome. All right, let's get into it, man. Let's talk Olympia. Because nobody else is talking about that, right? I know, Stu, you've already done one already, a podcast, and kind of, put your 2 cents in. Dennis, I don't think we're going to get your fresh take on this, correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah. I've been quiet since the Olympia. I did the live reaction on RX Muscle. On Friday, did the prejudging, open men prejudging, open bodybuilding. And, well, I would say we had fantastic athletes on stage, and a couple things changed. You know, we have new champions, we have new old champions, you know, so, and yeah, well,
let's start off with this. Let's, I mean, obviously,
yeah,
when we talk about
it's hard to say, like, or start, like, you know, kind of, it's difficult to judge when you watch a stream. So I watched the pay-per-view because I wasn't there in Orlando, so I stayed home. So it's really very tough to judge. So this is, you know, I don't like it actually, you know.
as far as trying to make a call over the pay-per-view. Let's do this. Let's give me your biggest surprise of the weekend of the show. We're talking about the Open now, Dennis, and then give me your biggest snub if there really was any. I felt that the placings were pretty accurate. I mean, you know, it wasn't anything that I blatantly disagreed with. But Dennis, give us your biggest surprise, whether it be, you know, first or 15th, and then give us your biggest kind of snub where you really think somebody that you should have placed higher than they did.
Okay, I would say Andrew Jack should have placed higher a little bit.
Okay.
He looked amazing, but judging on the prejudging, right? So in the finals,
where did he end up? Do you know where did he end up? What was his final place?
He was fifth.
5, yeah.
Yeah, it was fifth.
Okay.
So
okay.
I saw him on fourth place because of his structure and details and all that. But I think he lost it a little bit in the finals on Saturday. Big surprise for me was Samson Dauda. He was incredible. And I honestly, watching the stream, had him first on Friday because of his proportions, how he looked next to the shorter guys, right? Hadi and Derek. So, but Saturday, it looked completely different. Samson was holding a lot of water, was sweating a lot. And yeah, that was, I think, the reason he, you know, didn't make higher, you know. So anything else, I would say it was okay. Hadi, in my opinion, watching the stream, right? So we're talking about that I was watching the stream, was a lot better on Saturday than on Friday. And, you know, judging or seeing the scorecards, he lost clearly to Derek. So, yeah, I see a little bit different, you know, so, but definitely I can say it's well-deserved. Derek beat everyone from the back and side poses. And so I would say that placing was okay, in my opinion, you know, but I was judging on the stream, you know, so this is always, I hate this, you know, so live is something different than watching a stream.
All right, Stuart, what do you got, man?
Yeah, I mean, generally, I'd agree with the placings, like you said. I mean, for the most part, nothing controversial there. 1 and 2 really could have flipped for me. Like I said, like Dennis said, you know, you're not there in person, so it's hard to really say what everyone truly looks like. But you know, it's like, do you prefer Derek's glutes and hams and back that's really hard and impressive, or do you prefer Hadi's, you know, arms and delts and pecs that are really striated and separated? And it's like those are the two things that people were going back and forth about between those guys. Like, oh, but he's harder from the front, but he's harder from the back. Like, yeah, they both have very few weaknesses, and that's what makes it a tough call. I don't think I wouldn't have been mad if it had gone either way, personally. I think going further back in the lineup, I think, you know, you make a good point, Dennis, that Samson did slip a little. I have to imagine the guy is nearly 300 pounds, and he's trying to hold it together for a 2-day show like that. You know, that's no small task. I mean, peaking that guy is probably hard enough as it is. And then just nailing it twice. Good luck. You know, you compare him to some of the guys like Nick or Derek or some of the people that he's close to. He's getting better, but like his consistency has not quite been there as far as conditioning and peaking and everything. but you know, at the same time, he hasn't been on the circuit for, you know, and at the top of the circuit for that long. And then, you know, marching back through the places, I think Andrew probably placed fifth instead of fourth, just because I think he probably looked a little better in Texas, and they might have been comparing him to that look. I think Hunter also looked better in Texas, and they both slipped a little bit. So, you know, still the same order there. I think kind of the most interesting thing out of all of this is, you know, we did have some names missing from that lineup. A lot of people couldn't make it, but you know, if you compare this to like just a couple years ago, the whole top 10 is like, you know, half of them, if not more, are new. You know, a lot of these guys, even some of the ones that missed it, like Nick, you know, they weren't even in the mix a couple of years ago. Right. You know, I remember a couple of years ago, people were wondering if Nick Walker was ever going to turn pro after he lost the USAs, and look at him now. So overall, it's like, it's a very, you know, there's going to be a group of people that are like, these guys are all new and there's not the talent that we used to have. But like, this is a whole new chunk of people that's going to be at the top for probably a while now. So it's fun to see that, you know, right off the bat, you know, these guys are fresh and new, they're going to get better. And overall, like, it was a fun show. I just wish some of those folks who missed it could have made it.
Right. But two names I wanted to bring up and get you guys' thoughts on it was Crizzo, and not only I think he looked the best that he's ever looked, but I know the knock on him has been like his pose and his presentation, and I watched it pretty close, and not at one time did I think that hurt him. I mean, you know, he's not gonna, you know, set the world on fire like a rough diesel with his posing, but he wasn't shaking, he wasn't sweating. I mean, his transitions were good. I thought he looked great out there, you know, as far as that part and the posing. I thought he held it together, and I think he placed, you know, where he could, if not higher. I thought he looked very good, and then I was also surprised by Regan. I thought he made some tremendous, you know, improvements and moved up. Again, like there was some guys that weren't there. He may have moved down a little bit, but I thought he looked really well, really good, excuse me, and I think his legs have come up, and they're not really as strong as a weak point, as glaring as a weak point as they were. So I thought those two really kind of shined, you know, in that lower half. And then that's, you know, and everybody's making the point, you know, as far as Derek, you know, from the back versus Hottie from the front, and it's kind of like, what do you go with? But let me ask you two guys, I mean, both being coaches and working with other athletes, and I mean, obviously you got, you know, Hani working with these guys, who's like considered one of the best. What can Derek do? Because I really thought it was going to go to Hottie just based on the hardness from the front and the quads and the shoulders and, of course, chest. What as a coach can he do? I mean, Derek definitely made improvements, but he's still just lacking that. I mean, if he had that hardness that Hottie did, you know, from the front, it wouldn't even, I think it'd be game over. What can you do as a coach, or what do you think you could play with to try to improve that? Because obviously from the back, he's just I mean, it's unbelievable. You can't get any better. What could he do, and what would you do as a coach to maybe try to improve that from the front?
Go ahead, Dennis.
Either one of you guys. Dennis, go ahead.
This is a very good question. I think Derek's genetic is a little bit different. So it's very rare that an athlete, looks better in shape from behind than, you know, from the front. So basically it's the opposite, right? So you get in shape from the front, and the rest is kind of leaking, you know, it's kind of catching up, you know, until you're kind of there, right? So, and this is very, very difficult. And I think it's the time is very important to watch the progress, the reactions the body has, you know, if you change a couple things. And they've been working together a couple of years now, and I think they about to figure it out. So, but still, I think this is just my opinion. I think it's a genetic issue, not an issue, but it looks like he just can't bring that look like Hadi, right? Like the striation chest and everything. Derek rarely has it. So if he squeezes it a little bit more often, then you see a couple of striations coming through, but then it's gone again. So, and I don't know, maybe he needs to bring down a little bit the weight or so to figure it out. Every coach has his own plans and type of works to do with the athletes. And like I said, depending on the time and the progress, you figure it out, in time also, what works and what not. So, and I think they're not quite there yet.
Stuart, do you think it's maybe more nutrition based or a training issue? I mean, I don't think it's either. I'm with Dennis. I think it's a genetic deal. I mean, right? Because how can you look like that from the back and it not match the front? I mean, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, you have to assume, like, I mean, you say Hani's one of the best. He is the best as far as I'm concerned. Like, he's
got Olympia best after Olympian, right?
Yeah. And the way that he coaches, I know because like my coach used to work with him. He was one of his athletes, over a decade ago now, with Blue Taylor, and he's super focused on little details and all this little stuff that you're doing throughout the day. Kind of adds up to the final look, right? And he's like micro controlling everything. So I can't sit here and say, oh, if he'd done X, Y, or Z, he would have looked like this, because I can't sit here and say the best in the world is wrong.
Right.
I think if anything, it might be a time thing, because Derek, like, he just turned 30, right? Or he's 29 or 30. And, Hadi is in his mid to late 30s, I think. So maybe just a little more maturity in that area. But then again, maybe it never comes through. You look at, like, Juan Morel. Like, Juan Morel would have like paper thin skin on his glutes, just peeled, right? But he wouldn't have lines going through him. Phil Heath, he didn't really have feathering in his quads, or at least, the way that he posed it, it didn't show it. But it's not like he was fat or anything. It was just, that's what he looks like. And that didn't really get any better or worse over the course of their careers. I think overall, if he can make that area full enough and pop enough, that even if it's not, doesn't have all those lines and striations, it's not like the end of the world. Because, like, honestly, like, look at a lot of the guys doing well nowadays. They don't have like striations in their delts and stuff, because that's just not really something a lot of guys have nowadays. So I don't think they're really going to penalize it. If you're in condition everywhere except for like one spot, as long as it's not your glutes, you're probably going to be okay, because the glutes and hams are just like, we got You look real close at those. I have no suggestions for Hani. Like,
he's I know. I guess that may have been the wrong way to phrase that, but yeah, I mean, that was my question. Is just what could he possibly do? I mean, when he's that great, everywhere else, I think it's a genetic thing. But I think over time, you guys are right. It's going to get better and improve with that muscle maturity. But it was obviously good enough to to win the Mr. Olympia. So. What could have Hadi done any different that you think? I mean, obviously from the front, you think it was just the back shots that beat him? I mean, if you go pose for pose, I think it was those two. Now, Dennis, you said you had Samson, after day one. I mean, I had him in a clear third. He was the biggest, but I think when he started sweating, that was the end of prejudging, correct? I think that was day one.
No. He might have sweat a lot on prejudging too, but you couldn't see that. But Saturday, I mean, we had a clear picture. He was like really wet from the back, and that was the sign that he was. I mean, holding water, of course, and like Stuart said before, he was 300 pounds, and to peak and to hold all the fullness, you gotta keep feeding your body even after the prejudging. So, and I think, a little bit of water retention, this and that, carbs, of course, play a huge role. At the end, if they start working, the body is just kind of using all the glycogen, and sometimes you just start sweating. And mostly, if you start sweating, you get like, also the water under your skin. So it's not just sweating it out and getting better. Sometimes I've seen it a lot when I was an amateur. There was a guy standing next to me, and he was moving up from fourth place to winning the show. And through every pose, he was sweating. I don't know. It was like there was so much water around him, but he got better, 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 better. And he kind of got in shape. But it was not happening to Samson. But like I said, I was watching the stream. So, and all the proportions and how the picture was, you know, in my opinion, that he looked just impressive, right? Next to the shorter guys. I'm, you know, it's not to disrespect it, but, you know, it's always a different visual effect if a guy is a big frame guy, you know, on stage with almost filled out frame, you know. So this is, you know, how I saw the prejudging with Samson.
Stuart, what do you think?
I think that's.
Go ahead, man. I was just going to ask you, what do you think Stuart would have to do? What would he have to improve before next year to compete with the top two? I mean, I hadn't seen the scorecards, but I'm assuming. I mean, like I said, I feel like it was closer between Derek and Hadi and myself. What would Samson need to bring next year, other than maybe back improvement, to actually to pass those two guys, or can he?
Honestly, that's literally it. I mean, like if you're looking at like least weaknesses, right? I don't think Derek and Hadi, between the two of them, have a weak body part at all. You might say, oh, his chest isn't as hard as it should be, or his glutes aren't as hard as it should be. But like as far as like lack of muscularity or completeness, those guys are just like, they barely have any weaknesses. Samson is like, he's not missing a back, but it's like a level down from those two,
right,
compared to the rest of his body. And at the Olympia, that's really gonna, you know, because, you know, guess what? Nick Walker's going to be back next year, and Nick just annihilates from the back. You know, I've seen a picture of him, you know, like an imaginary comparison between him and Derek, and boy, his back is real close to Derek's. You know, lower body, he's got more adductor and more leg. He doesn't have the same level of detail as Derek does, but man, it's very impressive. So he's still kind of the odd man out in that potential kind of top four mix there as far as the back development. I mean, I was shocked at how much he has progressed since, you know, just from the Olympia last year to the Arnold,
right,
and then from the Arnold to the Olympia this year. Like, you don't see that often on a guy who's competing that much.
Right, and that's scary.
You know, you figure,
yeah, what's he going to bring next year? I mean, you know, I saw something. He's already going to do another show pretty quick, right? He's turning around.
Yeah, he's doing the Romania next week, like a few days, I think.
Yeah, which, I mean,
so he's going to.
Yeah, just clean up,
just
right?
go get a paycheck.
Yeah,
he's going to be headed back to Europe anyways, right? So may as well.
Well, I wonder if, you know, he'll shut it down after that and just prep. I guess, you know, Olympia, you're qualified if you're top three. So I wonder if he'll shut it down, or if he'll try to go after the Arnold again.
Oh, he is. Yeah, I think.
Is he?
Yeah, he said that like he's only gonna he's just gonna go to the Arnold every year going forward.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously they like his look there a lot.
Right.
It was rewarded over Nick's, which you know, you can make an argument both ways on either of those guys, but they really like those lines that he has. And you know, usually you expect somebody to make progress like he has if they take like a 2-year off season. They don't get on stage, they don't do nothing, right? But he's just been like hitting it consistently, getting bigger, not just harder, but like bigger each time, which is, it's crazy for somebody to do that at all, let alone at his age, because he's like 38 now. Right. You know,
I know he got a late start.
Very impressive.
Dennis, how did you find that break between? I know several years you did the Olympia and then turned around and did the Arnold. How would you take a break in there, like at all, or would you just kind of turn right around and start prepping for the Arnold? Because it was the same time of year, correct?
Look, times were a little bit different. We had less shows, and after the Olympia, we will. I mean, at least not the top 3 maybe, but you know, the rest of the top 6 will go to European shows. There will be Prague, you know, there will be Arnold Classic Europe, you know, before the federation split, you know. So we will always use that, you know, kind of, you know, like ending the season, competing at the European shows. So I will, I will not kind of stand, or stop everything after the Olympia and then, go for, rest and taking care of everything what needed to be done, and then start the prep for Arnold. I would do a lot of, as much as possible after the Olympia, but all these shows came later in my career, like in 2011, 12. But before that, I will remember, I think 2009 or so, or 10 Olympia, I will do no show after because there were no shows, So, but then I would always try to do that. And then, of course, this is like, it depends on how many shows I'll be doing, like 2, 3, or 4, like all of them, or just pick 2 of them, like Arnold and Prague Pro, because the prize money was really high. And after that, depending when the season ends, like November or December, I will take off a month and then straight for the next prep with Arnold. So basically the system, right? So you kind of, between the Olympia and Arnold, you don't have too much time to relax or take longer time off.
Yeah, and I know we're going to get into that a little bit later with the post-show rebound, and we'll get your a little more expanded view on that here coming up in a little bit. Let's jump to 212 and touch on that real quick. A lot of the lower guys. I didn't really follow the top 10 on that. It looked like it was pretty much how it should be. I think it was pretty much all about Keon and Sean. Dennis, did you watch any of the 212?
Yes, yeah, definitely. Based on that the champion needs to be knocked out, so, and Keon was not like ripped and shredded. I thought Clarita would have it, but judging on the symmetry, and how just the comparison, from between Keon and Sean, it was like 2 different worlds. So Keon doesn't look like he is, in a 212. He looks like a open bodybuilder, nice structure. Everything is just very nice developed, So yeah, it was tough, but with all the improvements Keon made over the years, he finally made it, and I think it's still well deserved, and huge congratulations.
Stuart, do you think that Keon taking the title was more a product of his improvements, or do you think he straight up beat Sean, fair and square, more or less?
I think, yeah, he did get better than like Texas or the Olympia last year. Did he straight up beat Sean on all of the standard bodybuilding criteria, like condition, proportion, muscularity, all of that stuff? I don't think so. Not enough to knock a champ, but I think that if they're trying to shift judging in a certain direction towards a more aesthetic physique, and they're trying to send a message there, then he definitely serves that purpose. And I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to win either. I'm just saying, like, if the way that I understand judging, if I looked at all the criteria there, I'd say that Sean would have won that, because overall structural size, and not even muscularity, but like just space that he takes up and shape. He won that, but like condition, muscularity, detail, like he kind of lost all those other things. So if that's the purpose there, to like say, hey, this is the new standard. We want guys with pretty flowing shape, not just 5'3" balls of muscle, which is what the 212 division has been. And I love it for that. Like, dude, it's so entertaining. Like, these guys are just super dense, but Keon doesn't really have that look. And it kind of, if they're pushing in that direction towards those kinds of physiques, and I think we kind of saw it in the Open too, some more aesthetic guys won shows this year. It makes me wonder, like, there's a lot of 212 guys that are just, balls of muscle, and they've done very well as a result. So are they kind of left out in the cold now as far as like, are they not going to place as well?
Right. Yeah, especially if they're
there was a lot
changing
of
that standard. I mean, that's kind of what I got watching it. Watching it live, I thought, Sean had it, far and above. And then when you go back and look at the pictures and you start looking at the aesthetics and condition and hats off to Keon. This is definitely his best condition. He wasn't out of shape. He was phenomenal. It's just Clarita has that graininess and hardness that nobody else has. But as far as the aesthetic flow, and what else can Sean do at this point? I mean, how much muscle can you put on a body? And I think they mentioned that the judges did give him feedback. So I don't know if you heard what that was, because I'd be interesting, to know what it was. But I will say, and this is my theory, and see if you guys, agree or disagree. But as far as, aesthetics and maybe changing his look, if Sean, if they're going towards that with Keon, and this may sound crazy, but would adding something like a vacuum to his poses, his front double bicep, his front lat spread, would that, and I don't know what it would look like, on Sean, because it looks different on everybody's physique. But I think of guys like Charles Griffin, who kind of added that vacuum, to their posing, and it really changed his physique. It changed his placings, and it kind of gave him a different look. Would Sean adding that, or to his repertoire or what he displays, would that change the way his physique looks? Or, I mean, do you think it would be a moot point at that? What do you think?
Well, Dennis, when you do your front double, right, you pull straight up into it. You don't really pull a vacuum, but you definitely don't flex your abs, right?
No, I stretch them out. Yeah, stretch them out.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, but you have a big rib cage to make that look good.
Yeah.
I kind of do a similar thing because I've got a big sort of open rib cage. I don't know if Sean has that.
Yeah. That's another question. Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Because I tried many things because, as a bodybuilder, you try many poses, which one looks the best or better. And, it didn't look well at all. So it looked like, I'm not, it changed my structure kind of, I couldn't even kind of hit it right.
Shoulders
right?
down.
So yeah. So it made me smaller. And so it depends on the structure as well. What poses can you hit and how can you hit them? Kind of crunching, the abs and stuff, couldn't do it either. So it will make me worse, look worse.
Yeah, I think with a guy like Dennis, his strengths are like giant arms, giant lats, and super flaring quads, right? That whole silhouette is super impressive. He's not like a detail from the front guy, right? Yeah. That's what Sean is. He's very complete. Exactly. He's got pop everywhere, but he's also got abs, and he wants to show those off.
Yeah,
I think if he hold up like that,
he has 8-pack. Yeah. I mean, on that small very body, impressive. A short body, not small.
I'm just curious what it would look like. That's all I'm saying. I would just like to see it. I could probably look at it for 2 seconds and be like, yeah, bad idea. But I'm just saying, Keon has it, right? And Sean has more muscle. So if he changed his poses, what would he look like next to Keon? Just saying.
That's a good thing. Maybe bodybuilding, you judge many different physiques. One is more aesthetic. One is more compact, complete, bulky. You said, Stuart, right? So mostly the 212 bodybuilders are kind of compact, round, muscle on muscle, right? So and they're short, so it looks like not normal, right? So and then there is a guy right now who is fully aesthetic, it's just the look is completely different, So and I agree with you. Does it means right now, the rest who is been up there, being that big and round, gonna place lower or not?
Yeah, these guys, I think they have to play their own game. And Sean Clarita's game is density, condition, freakiness, and that's been rewarded for a while. Actually, I sit here saying that even though a couple of years ago, Derek won the 212, right? And he's another structure, kind of big rib cage,
right.
Tiny waist, big shoulders kind of guy.
Yeah, more like a Keon was versus Sean. So, yeah.
See, this is the problem with judging. It's like, what do they want? Like, it's trying to decipher star signs. I don't,
So
you know.
So
So as a competitor,
you don't want to break down men's physique and tell us what we're looking for.
Yeah, well, that's even worse than astrology, man.
Yeah, I'll just say I was glad the direction they went this year, man. That was cool to see a kind of a smaller guy win that. But let's go to Classic real quick. My question to both of you guys is just, was it close? I mean, you saw the comparisons, the final two. We had Ramon Dino and Bumstead. I didn't think it was close still at this point. Did you guys think he closed the gap there at all, or is it still pretty much Chris and everybody else?
Yeah, I mean, I would say yes. I mean, Chris is classic physique standard, right? So, and Dino is improving, and he looked a lot better than last year. Fuller, more muscular, and hitting the poses better. You know, that was me criticizing him, you know, for the past. But I think these top two guys are far away from the rest. This is my opinion, and but Ramon is moving closer to Chris, but I still think Chris is untouchable. It was like clear this year too.
Stuart, do you agree?
I agree with that first. Okay. Yeah, with that first place, I think second and third, Ramon and Urs, they're very different looking guys, but they're. Man, okay, so this is the problem I have with classic physique. So Chris is his own thing, right? He's just untouchable as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
And then like all the way back down through like 30th places, there were 30 guys there. Like they all look really good. They've got little waist, good conditioning, complete. And it like I'm just looking at these guys like, what is differentiating third place from 10th place from last place? And it's just an inherent problem with the division because you're never gonna see a guy like, I mean, when I was competing against Tonio this year, he was like 220 on stage. I was like over 250. You know, you're never gonna see a big contrast kind of matchup there where it's like, oh, there's more diversity.
Yeah, because of the weight cap, they're all going to be within a few pounds of each other. So just comes down kind of genetics and the preference, right? Judge's preference.
Yeah, some of them look flat, some of them look full. So, and this is when you make weight.
I think they're generally very consistent with their conditioning because they have to make weight. You know, they're not worried about staying full and big like us stupid open bodybuilders. Like we're all worried about getting small, right? But I mean, it's just I look at that whole division, not the whole thing, but a lot of it, and like there's so many guys in there that would make awesome open bodybuilders if they put on 20 pounds. And they'd be beating guys that are out there right now doing well. But that's, putting on 20 pounds of tissue is like no small task. That's like changing your whole life to like be a full-time bodybuilder to like get to that level. Right. So I guess my naivete that I don't know how exactly they differentiate that judging and everything. The takeaway though is they all look very good. That division brings a ton of people to the sport. I don't know if it's putting people in seats at the show itself. I think a lot of fans come to see the open guys still because it's just out of this world crazy looking. But the more casual fans are like, they're following these guys, they're getting in the gym, they're supporting the sport. It's all good.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean,
I wish.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wish a couple of them, because there's not really much else they can do at that top of the weight class. Like,
yeah, you can't really drastically. How are you going to change your physique? I mean, you're not going to get. They're in condition, so I don't really know how they improve. I agree with that. I think. I did want to mention, I thought Breon looked phenomenal coming back. I think the best he looked. I had him in third over Urs myself. I thought he looked just really good. And I don't know how that transitions to 212 if he wanted to go over there. Again, it's a different physique. I still think he's in the right class. I just don't know how he's ever going to knock off Chris. But, I mean, I could have him as high as second. Thought he looked really well. Really good, and I was happy to see DeBull and Wesley Vissers move up. I think for his structure, which is really unique, kind of that old school, I think of as classic. I think he was 6th or 7th. That's a really good jump for him. And I was just glad to see them reward a different, style of physique there. But other than that, man, I think they pretty much, like I say, they got it right. And from there, not to disrespect any of those guys, but it's just really hard to stand out when you have that weight cap and they're all in condition, right? But anyway.
That 1-2 comparison between Ramon and Chris was like, it was eye-opening. It was like, man, there is like maybe in the forearms and the arms he's beating him there.
Yes.
Just because Chris has that bicep issue, but like nowhere else.
Well, what was funny is I saw some people live stream. I don't remember who it was, but they were like, it could be close. I think I have Dino. And I was like, what are you watching, man? I was like.
Were they Brazilians?
Probably.
I don't want to put anybody out there, but I think it was Ramon. Was it Jose Ramon? Or I can't remember, but I was like, no, I don't see it, man. So anyway, I think they got it right. Awesome, man. Well, guys, we are going to wrap up this episode and go into our next one. I did want to mention on the tee, the Legacy tee, for Dennis, we are going to give one away. What I need you guys to do to win that shirt is to like and subscribe the channel. And I want you to email Dennis at denniswolfcamp@gmail.com. And I want you to send your favorite question or your best question regarding Dennis's career and what you'd like to see him talk about. And then Dennis is going to pick his favorite question, and we will make sure and get you a shirt out. We will pick the winner on that and announce you on the podcast. That's going to conclude this episode of Big Bad Bodybuilding post-Olympia discussion. Stay tuned for our next episode where Dennis and Stuart will talk business and bodybuilding, and also we're going to hit on post-show rebounds. Thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe.